A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for keeping it KBC Channel 1 this particular morning on the 6th day of April 2021. This is News Check. First, we apologize for starting a little bit late. Thank you so much for your support and for staying on as we continue with what we do here right on this particular program to highlight some of the issues that are shaping conversation in the country, giving sort of the different angles that probably you could have missed in the day's coverage of the news, as we have experts in studio to explore some of these issues and to give you a better understanding. We talk about politics to all the issues that are shaping what is happening in our country. And as we speak this particular morning, we know that we are battling the third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. Just the other day, on the 26th of March, President Uhuru Kenyatta laid out quite a number of guidelines, new measures that ought to be implemented to help us curtail the spread of COVID-19 that is picking up very fast. For a very long time, in the last few weeks, we have been recording a 2-digit fatality rate, and this is something that is not looking very promising. If you may ask me, hospitals are recording, saying they're overwhelmed. ICU beds, actually, there's a shortage, and a lot is happening in the country. We'll be talking about COVID in this particular conversation, and also 2022 politics. COVID has not dimmed the light on the political happenings in the country, so we stay alive to what is happening, and that is the political conversation. And we're going to be talking about 2022 politics matters. COVID, welcome on board. My name is Safin Achieng Ouma, and our sign language interpreter is Lensa Odingo. Now in studio this morning to help me unpack some of these issues, I'm having a political analyst, Jacob Kioko. Thank you so much, Jacob, for creating time.
Thank you so much.
Should we begin with politics? And let's go straight away, because a lot is happening, especially over the Easter weekend. And even just in the month of March, we've seen a lot of changes in the political space. I'd like, first of all, to talk about what is still developing, and there's still a lot of anticipation around the One Kenya Alliance. And when I'm saying One Kenya Alliance, I'm talking about the recent collaboration between Wiper Democratic Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi of ANC, Moses Wetangula of Ford Kenya, and of course they are working closely with the KANU chair Gideon Moi. This is ahead of the 2022 general election. They have the One Kenya Alliance. Right now there are talks of who's going to be the presidential candidate in this particular alliance? Is it going to be from within? Is it going to be Raila Odinga? Is it going to be William Ruto? There's a lot of talk around the possibility of who this alliance is likely to work with, or whether they're going to work on their own. I don't know what you read from the mood and even the intention, the objective of this particular alliance, and the talk that is going around about the headache of coming up with a presidential candidate for the One Kenya Alliance.
No, there's absolutely nothing new in political alliances. As far back as the 1st century BC, there were alliances after the death of Julius Caesar. Pompey was the main player in the first political alliance. And as soon as they ascended to office, rancors started. And all the way from the 1st century BC to date, political alliances have never operated smoothly. We have had many MOUs which have been abused after elections. We have examples in the African continent, notably Joseph Savimbi of Mozambique. We had an issue with Mugabe and the late Joshua Nkomo. And here we have had many of them. So there's nothing new in political alliances.
So really, I mean, the gospel that this is presenting, sort of a national outlook, a party, a coalition that is bringing together a team that will present what Kenya is, that is not something new for you?
Absolutely not. What could be new for me is if the narrative changed from tribal groupings in the name of political parties into tangible policies and ideologies. That is what is of interest to me. Because the rest of it is what we have heard from time immemorial. It has never worked. So I don't see much progress being made by whatever alliance. As long as it's a tribal grouping, I don't think we are getting anywhere. Mm-hmm. The issue is the story should change from I, and by the way, I'm running for the presidency.
2022, you are on the ballot?
I will be on the ballot, and I have made it very clear. Some time ago last year in this studio, to the effect that I am a marketer by training. And over the last 27 years now, I have developed and patented a marketing innovation which touches on nearly all aspects of human life. One of them, politics. Now, unless we have a leader who can join up every single living Kenyan, you are young enough to be called a youth. I don't know what your age is. And I have something very special for everybody. In my political outfit, independent political candidature is the key word. And the innovation that I have developed, named Dugwi, will be the converging point for all independent political aspirants. The policies and ideologies born of that innovation will enable us to field a candidate in every ward, in every constituency, in every county, and a creed has been developed which will be preached by every aspirant, MCA, every MP aspirant, every women rep aspirant, every governor, and every senator.
All right, I hear you, and I actually didn't even anticipate that this is going to take this direction, but out of curiosity though, there's one thing to be a candidate, there's one thing to want to be a leader in a society, especially just looking at our Kenyan context and our politics, how we've played it over the years. There's one thing to want to be a leader, but there's the other to have a game plan to ensure that you achieve your objective.
Yeah.
Looking at the environment and the dynamics in a country where we sort of identify so much with political parties, and coalitions also become a very pivotal, they play a very pivotal role in terms of facilitating the desire to ascend to power, especially when you're talking about a powerful position as becoming the president.
Yeah.
That game plan of becoming an independent candidate, how are you going to sell this agenda?
It is very simple. I have just told you that there is a creed which has already been developed, which will be handed over to all our aspirants right from MCA level, so that across board, in the entire horizon of our country, every MCA will have something specially made out to address the public on. His neighbor is going to preach the same gospel until the entire country is covered. All MPs, aspirants, MP aspirants will team up with all the MCAs.
These are independent candidates?
Independent
This is
candidates.
not a political party?
No.
In the name of independence?
No.
How are you independent then if you're working within a particular group, a particular system?
We are independent because we are not a registered political party. All that we want is a converging point where our ideals can be discussed and spread through the country. So that we are not going to promise people, as is the usual practice, of we will build roads, we will do that. Concentrating on infrastructure. Forgetting that infrastructure is one section of national economic development. The other part is investment capital. And this is what we are going to raise to make the difference, to raise investment capital to join up with the infrastructure, which is already in place and is going to continue to be built, so that the wheel of national economic development will complete its circle. Because infrastructure alone cannot bring about national economic development. It is very important, it's vital, but then you need investment capital. And this is where this country and the entire post-independence Africa has missed the mark. Poverty and borrowings are as a result of our not being able to raise investment capital from our local resources. And that is the key to what I'm here discussing. So that as long as we have developed the capacity to raise investment capital to empower you and everybody equitably, then we are on the right track. Tribalism will be a thing of the past because all the Kamba young men and women and all the Kikuyus and everybody, I'm only calling out 2 names, but we are about 44 tribes. No village doesn't have a young person. No village doesn't have a lady. And these are the people we are going to start off with. Run for the MCA's post in this ward. I will run for the MCA's post in the next ward and all over the country. Now, these young people especially will not need to undergo the pain and cost of developing complicated campaign strategies.
Exactly my point, because we have to agree, Jacob, that in this country, political parties play a very pivotal role, in as much as you seem to be of a different opinion, in terms of even marshalling the support, the financial resources that are needed, creating the platform, creating the just enabling environment for a candidate to thrive in whichever position you're vying for.
Yes, yes.
I mean, how are you going to beat these odds?
The odds are there, stacked heavily against my opinion. But that is the way to go. Because if we are not going to break linkage of politics with tribalism, we'll never make a headway. So somebody must start at some point. And this is the starting point. That gather all Kenyans of like mind, those who are not willing to go the tribal way. And how do we do that? We have a converging point in the name of an innovation. And we are going to bring in something new, which nobody has ever discussed. All the political parties' manifestos never mention.
What is this new thing that we have never had before? All the candidates who have vied, all the political parties that have placed their manifestos on the table, what is this thing that we have never heard of?
The capacity to raise investment capital from our local resources in the domestic economy.
That is not under the Big Four agenda, Buy Kenya, Build Kenya? Not
necessarily so. We may want to buy Kenya. Do you have the purchasing power? Because that is key. What I'm here talking about is empower the masses equitably, and I'm going to tell you how. Equip the domestic economy with purchasing power. Attract massive domestic and foreign investment, because every business person will invest in a market which has purchasing power. Now, this is the one thing that is missing out all through. It is not only in Kenya alone. I've said the entire post-independence Africa. And that is why we have a problem. We either borrow or we stagnate. So we must break this chain. And the only way out is to go by my idea. How does my idea work? Very simply. For every item that you purchase from the shop, you'll be afforded a retainer incentive, a loyalty. Yeah. In the form of a sales promotion benefit. And instead of redeeming, as is the common practice, your loyalties, you'll be issued with a share certificate. And the cumulative accrual of all those loyalties through the country will be invested in job-creating business corporations. And at the end of the trading period for these business corporations, you'll be paid dividends. Everybody will be paid dividends.
We are talking about the mama mboga in informal settlements, the woman in the rural area, some who survive below $1 a day. How sustainable is that for them? I want to forget about the elites who can manage a consistent purchasing of products. I'm talking about that person who may not have that privilege on a daily basis to purchase.
Everybody does. Everybody does. Mm-hmm. Whoever lives, eats. And whoever eats, buys. And whoever purchases will be afforded that retainer incentive by the company that manufactures that product. I'll tell you how the company is going to benefit. So that every single living human being who lives and purchases and must purchase, even the beggars in the streets, even if it is not from their own savings, people buy for them. The retainer incentive, which is going to be given by the company that has manufactured that product, will go into the cell phone account of the purchaser, the person who is going to use that item. And it is a personal saving without spending a cent. The lowest person in society has that opportunity. And cumulatively, it will be something substantial. Then we start big projects in different counties to offer jobs to the jobless. And
haven't we had this before?
No.
A promise for the youth to get jobs, a promise for the manufacturing sector to be built up, to be promoted. Haven't we had this gospel before, for years, not just this time around? True.
And that is why I want to make the difference. This is not a gospel that I'm preaching. This is a reality, because I don't want to mention names, but in sales promotion, I'm a marketer by profession, I've just said. In sales promotion, during the promotion period, the customer benefits. And by the way, sales promotions can take 1 million forms. You could benefit once off and it's it. This time it's going to be continuous. Mm-hmm. So that every living individual is going to be afforded a retainer, a personal saving. And cumulatively, it's going to be something substantial. Mm-hmm. Cumulatively, we are going to start business corporations to offer the youth jobs. What we have just cited is an ad hoc policy. We depend on the budget. So much will go to the youth fund, so much will go all that. But it's all fragmented. You take yours, do with it the way, meaning handle it the way you want to. I take mine, handle it the way I want to. And there's nothing to join us up. This time, it's going to be all those who join up, and everybody will join up ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Jacob, where has this formula worked before? Many would want to ask, who is this man, Jacob? Has he been an MCA somewhere? Has he been a member of parliament somewhere? So that we can get the assurance and the confidence that we can entrust a powerful position such as presidency to this particular person.
I've just said that I'm a marketer by profession, that I'm a businessman by occupation, and that this is a patented marketing innovation, which is going to pull out, it's going to pull the country and the continent, and in fact, the entire human race, out of the many problems that we are faced with. Mm-hmm. Because as long as, and I emphasize this, we are able to develop the capacity for raising investment capital, which is what lacks, such that Africa has not been able to make any progress mm-hmm. from independence to date. We must depend on other people. So this innovation and I repeat, it's patented, is going to enable us to raise investment capital from our local resources, which is what lacks. And from that point forward, we are then able to do our things our way. We are then able not to depend on the national budget to empower the youth, to pay the elderly, all that. We don't need to spend money from the budget, to depend on the budget to enable us to move. At the counties, this source of funds, which is raised from everyday undertakings, is also going to enable the counties to finance the exploitation of their potentials beyond their own abilities and besides what the Constitution promises, so that they can finance their entire expenditure budgets from within their means without having got to wait for the central government to allocate funds. So it is this kind of a thought which I'm bringing into the picture afresh.
And I like how practical you are with this, just explaining how, from your lenses, this is going to work, this strategy that you have. But why State House? Why directly State House?
Because for the last 27 years, I have done all that is humanly possible to get this innovation adopted as a national asset, and I have not made a breakthrough. And the magnitude of impact on the national economy and society is such that it needs political goodwill from the highest office. The economic value of this innovation to the nation, and by extension the entire human race, cannot be quantified on paper. We are at par with David Ricardo's world revolutionizing economic innovation, which focuses on the economic benefits derivable from comparative advantage in free trade. Now here, we are focusing on internal trade as the leverage medium, first, to foster total social integration, and two, to achieve the rare feat of simultaneous business profitability growth and perpetual human economic development. So this innovation cannot be handled at a lower level because of the magnitude of impact that it has on society and business.
It's a good innovation, and you've actually explained why it needs to be given that national platform. But I'm more curious and concerned about your game plan to get there, because first you say you're not going to be working with any coalition, you're not going to be working with political parties, which you term as tribal,
yes,
as we speak, if I got you correctly.
True.
I do not know how you're going to change the thought or the ideology of a newcomer in politics. How are you going to break down that ice to convince Kenyans that here I am and I have a solution to what is ailing you as a country and I want to be your president? How are you going to change the ideology around that?
Votes are local. And there is a nyumba kumi in every corner of this country. So the youth and those who are of like thought, not necessarily the youth, and who want to draw away from tribalism into tangible national economic development, are the people that I am going to address. I have just said I have already developed something of interest to everybody because it will empower every voter individually and all of us collectively, without being promised that 1 and 2 are going to be added to give us 3. It is you and I, your own vote, which will reward you with this self-empowerment money. You are going to be rewarded by purchasing a product. It is not going to go through the national system. It is directly to you. And your son, your daughter, your father, who doesn't have a job, is going to have a job at the village level, because your contributions put together will add up to something substantial, and you know what is best in your village, set it up there. Now, we'll move from the satellite business corporations, we'll move in stages to the county economic hubs. That is, the satellite business corporations, several of them put together, will make the county economic hub, the equivalent of the county cities. Now, it is not possible for every county to develop its own city because of the financial constraints. But here, in this particular situation, this arrangement, every county is going to have first the satellite business corporations in every ward. Then, advancing from there, we'll create the county economic hub, the equivalent of the county cities. From that point, the 47 county economic hubs will combine forces to create an entirely new economic sector in the national economic grid to supplement the effort of the conventional economic sector, so that thenceforth national economic development will be financed from two different economic fronts, drawing their revenue from two different economic sources. This will culminate in more than double national economic growth rate.
Which is a beautiful vision. Yeah. But we're used to the campaign trail, the political rallies, the big launches of presidential bids. I mean, have you done any of that? Are you intending or planning to do any of that?
Of course we will do that. But the key thing is to inform Kenyans at the grassroots that this is the new thing which is going to be of benefit to you, and is going to be in the firm grip of your control. Because 10 or 20 people want to run for the MCS seat in, say, Ward A. The 20 of them will get together. Yes, we all want. We have been cleared by the authorities. But one of us is going to run. Who is going to run? So a very simple raffle will be run by them, not anybody else. And say 20 pieces of paper, one reading yes, the other reading no. So the one who picks the one reads yes is going to be the candidate. What happens to the 20 who have not qualified? They will be the people to manage the business corporations which are going to be initiated through this effort. So there's no loser here.
So it's sort of like a winner, so addressing the winner takes it all.
No, that will address it, but here there is no loser. You don't lose because you are not going to run. You have the jobs. Now, we are going to develop a curriculum to train Kenyans on this innovation, and then establish worldwide joint venture business corporations with other countries of the world. No country does not want in development, and especially in the African continent. Now that the African continent will open up its eyes, finally, we are able to raise investment capital from our own local resources, and we are going to sell this idea to all the nations, starting from here, then Africa, the continent, and elsewhere. And then those who will not qualify for MPship, for senatorial seats, and also those who retire. Where do our retired presidents, and prime ministers and governors go. That is something which nobody seems to bother about. But we need to set up a global syndicate where we would make use of the experience and expertise of those retired Kenyans who have big minds to run a global business enterprise, not only to benefit this country, but the entire human race. Because here is something new. It is no longer infrastructure, because the formula is infrastructure plus 0 is equal to total national economic development. Without the element of the investment capital, how do you develop?
Good question, good question. And you know, sometimes they say that we allow the heightened political environment and the politics of the day to water down such good ideas that you shared with us this morning. But can we afford to stay away from politics? Is our populace ready for an empowerment strategy like the one you're describing this morning, an ideal empowerment strategy that is devoid of any politics of any nature?
Although I cannot speak authoritatively on what Kenyans think, there must be a starting point.
Yeah.
And this is the starting point, that we must draw away from tribal lineages to ideologies, policies and ideologies. And the only way out is to empower every single living Kenyan, individually and collectively, to roll the wheel of development forward. And they are not always about it. People fly with helicopters, but finally when the dust settles, everybody goes home to continue toiling. And this is where people must change their thinking. Mm-hmm. You must be afforded the opportunity to develop, advance your personal development, and collectively the development of this nation. So whether or not this is popular, a point, we must start from some point. We were not all born popular. None of us was born popular. We developed popularity. And even if it is not me who is going to get the popularity of this idea fully blown, you are there. You think it's a good idea. You know, you think your son is going to benefit. I mean, surely. Why listen to something which you have known all through doesn't benefit you beyond the voting day? After the votes are over, those helicopters will never fly again.
Don't you think it's important to have goodwill, to have endorsement, to have support, to have a coalition you're working with?
Yes.
Sort of a strategy to...
From those who are of the same school of thought. And that is why I say this innovation is the converging point. That is where we will meet. This is the converging point. I'm not going to do it singly. That is the converging point. Starting off with the Nyumba Kumi in every county. So the strategy of having people to work with, you cannot progress without that. Mm-hmm. And the converging point, you talk about political parties is the converging point. Yes? To get the support. I'm talking about the innovation as the converging point to get the support and to help those who actually really need help and the nation.
I'm concerned about whether the population is empowered enough to look at the idea before they look at the strategy of making this idea work. You've talked about tribalism, and you're really shunning tribalism and politics of tribe, which is a good thing. I want us to talk more about that. What do you think informs our choices when it comes to leadership, our choices when it comes to how we're looking at even which political party we are supporting, or whose idea we are going to buy at the end of the day as a population? What do you think informs that choice, and is it the right principle for us to use to make that choice?
No, I think the question should be, how did we get where we are? Because that is the starting point. How did we get where we are? Actually, 4 pertinent questions. How did we get where we are? Why are we stuck where we are? How do we get out of where we are? And finally, what are our future prospects? Briefly, I'll give pertinent answers to those pertinent questions. We are where we are because we came from slavery into colonialism, into independence. The colonists, with their sole intention being to exploit the African, to boost their economies, developed 2 very unfair socio-economic policies. The lopsided economic policy, because they developed only sections of the country which they perceived to hold the highest economic potential and forgot about the rest of the country. So all politicians, both dead and living, were born into a lopsided economic policy. And that is where the whole thing started. Now, after independence, we did not realize that although we may have infrastructure, small as it may have been, it was there. We believed that infrastructure is all that is required for economic development. History has proved that is not quite true. We need to invest in that infrastructure in order to develop. And that is my emphasis. If I could mobilize every living Kenyan into seeing the sense in what I'm saying, equip the domestic economy with purchasing power, empower the masses equitably, and above all else, develop the capacity to raise investment capital from our local resources.
All right, all right. I wish we had more time to continue having this conversation, but thank you so much, Jacob, for creating time for us, and of course, just sharing more on, the way forward for you in 2022, plus other matters. Of course, a lot is happening in the country, and right here on NewsCheck, that is what we do. We try to unpack some of these issues for you. Today, I was engaging Jacob Kioko, a political analyst. We've run out of time for this conversation, but we're picking it up very soon. Thank you so much for creating time for us. We are now going to be paving way for Tamrini, the Swahili version of the program. Nancy Okware is already in studio on standby to take you through that. Do stay with us. This is NewsCheck.
Thank you so much.